Okay, enough of you. Enough of you there. Oh my God, where am I? No, I haven't forgotten about you folks. I just forgot to post a delayed notice for last week's show, which is right here, right now. So once again, live, on tape, from a secret, undisclosed location, somewhere hidden deep in the bowels of downtown St. John's, Newfoundland, way off on the far eastern shores of Canada, comes in the Library of Graphic Literature. I gotta come up with a theme. Yeah, you sure do, Wallace, you suck. Okay. Anyway, I am your host. Yeah, his name's Wallace Ryan. He sucks. Says the vampire. Anyway, glad to see everyone. Let's have a cup of tea here. Or a sip of a cup of tea, and let's get down to it. Any big news that I can think of this week? Let's see. Tom Spurgeon died. The DC February solicitations came out. They were kind of disappointing, actually, outside of the absolute Gotham by Gaslight. And, and on a personal note, on a self-serving personal note, the comic that I lettered for my friend Paul Tucker and written by Patrick Kindlon, Nobody's in Control. Number 3 will be out December 4th, so you got a couple of weeks to order it in. And number 4 will be following in January. So they're back at it there. And apparently the rumor is there's a softcover version coming, so get ready for that. Because it's great to read all in one go. I know people say, well, you got to say that because that's your comic, but this one of the reasons I'm so excited about the whole project in the comic was, even from the first time I read it, was just like, my God, this is a great comic. This Kindlon guy can really write. And of course I've had the honor of working with my good buddy Paul Tucker, who's been doing some kick-ass comics, and it's up to date so far, one of his best pieces of work. And soon there will be another announcement coming out about another project from the same team, but we'll keep you posted. Anyway, let's get down to it. I figured I'd start out with this week. I decided to go from my favorite books first, and then go from there. Not that the others aren't favorites of mine, but I'll start with what I think is the best. I think I'm going to do that from now on, rather, because I know that people tend, when they're watching podcasts, they tend to drift off towards the end of it. So I figure, I'm going to make a habit of putting at least most of the good stuff up front. I'll still leave something for the last. So let's start with this boxed item. What could be in this box? Oh my God! I know you're freaking out. What is it? What is it? It is the absolute Swamp Thing. This is the Alan Moore, the classic Alan Moore run on it. Now, before anyone gets all up in arms and all that, I know that they've actually recolored this series, which is one of the reasons I'm getting it. I'm getting less and less absolutes unless there's something, that's huge for me. And I tend to, any absolutes for Alan Moore, I tend to get anyway. But yeah, any good series or anything like that I'll get. But this one, I've seen samples of the recoloring, and it actually looks pretty darn good. There's a nice feeling to it. It has it's different from obviously the original, but there's something about it that still holds together. So let's toss that plastic aside. Oh, and here's a little note there. Very cheap, only $99.99 in the United States of America. Ooh, feel this. Oh, I love these little bookcases, right? These very well done, hey? Look at that. From all angles, up and bottom. Okay, yeah, nothing big on that. But anyway, absolutely cool. The slipcase, love the slipcase. I've got to give it to DC when it comes to doing absolute editions and slip cases and the whole thing. They go all out for it, and you know what? In my opinion, they score a bit of a home run, and they have in this one. Now, let's have a look here. Oh, glue left on the binding there. Okay. Ooh. Oh yes. I heard about this. It's a cloth. It's a real. Oh God, it's a real tactile piece of cloth. It has quite a bit of a tooth to it, and this you can actually even feel the ink. Oh, that is so cool. Almost feels like the book is flocked. It's probably about the best I can put it. All right. Cool. Now it says coloring by Steve Olive. Okay, he's recolored it, and Olive is actually one of my favorite colorists. So I don't feel so bad that it's him. But yeah, always loved Alan Moore's take on the Swamp Thing. He changed, especially, and this actually has the anatomy lesson in it. To me, one of the great Swamp Thing stories. This is where we first learn that Swamp Thing isn't Alec Holland, but Swamp Thing is a plant that thinks it's Alec Holland. When I first read that, it just blew my mind. But yeah, the artwork is amazing in this series. The stories are just absolutely mind-boggling. It's great to be able to see someone who takes a character that's not their own. I know, even though Alan doesn't like that being done to his stuff. But with this one, I can remember reading this at the time. It was just like, and I'd been a huge fan of, of the Wayne Wrightson Swamp Thing and all that. And when there were a few attempts at it by other people, I actually liked Nestor Redondo and Len Wein, what they did with it. Especially Redondo, his style, there was just something very, I don't know, somehow appropriate. He did draw a really cool Swamp Thing too, and he could draw plants like nothing else. And in between, the Tom Yates had done some and all that. It was sort of okay, but once Alan Moore got his mitts on it, I can remember it just exploded. Next thing, everyone was buying Swamp Thing way back then. Okay, let's move along here now. This is actually a rather interesting little tidbit here. This is it's a Marvel book. It's Marvel Pin Ups and all that, and it's not from Marvel. It's from, of all companies out there, it's from Yoe Books. Yeah, look at that. Edited by good old Craig Yoe. Craig does, of course, as we all know, does great historical collections of comics and theme books, stuff like that. And when I seen this, the Marvel Masterwork Pin Ups book, I thought, wow, it's kind of a cool idea, actually, because I always did kind of like the pin ups in the Marvel magazines, in the Marvel comics and all that. They sort of had a cool innocence to them. I'll show you, give you a shot. There's one in particular. There's actually one. There's a Barry Smith. There's a Barry Windsor Smith. I think it was Medusa. Let's see. Yeah. So basically, they're very cool drawings of all the various characters over the years. Oh, there we go. There's the Barry Smith one there. And I came across it one time, and I'd never seen it before. Oh, and of course the Submariner one. But yeah, there's and there's a couple of burn ones, so a couple of modern ones thrown in here too. Oh, and I love this Buscema. I mean, look at Buscema's action. I mean, each figure here is just jumping off the screen at you. I mean, seriously, they are. But yeah, the Marvel Pin Up was to me a staple. I like seeing them in there. They usually get talked a little bit about the character and all that. So it was it was kind of neat. So when I seen it coming from Craig, it was just like, wow, what a cool idea. Love to see Marvel farming out books and stuff to other companies to put together for them. It keeps share the wealth, I say. But yeah, great job here. Great job, Craig. Craig, absolutely love it. I always love these, especially this one. Black Bolt to me, this was one of the ultimate in superhero outfits. There's something sleek and mysterious about it. Even as a kid, I love this costume. Anyway, yeah, pick that up. a must have. Okay, and as we clip along here, we have from Marvel themselves. So yeah, this book definitely deserves a kiss, and a few other kisses for the absolute Swamp Thing. And here we have Volume 21, Marvel Masterworks of the Amazing Spider-Man. Woo! Yay! Yay! Thank you. This basically is mainly in terms of the art. John Romita Jr., Frank Miller, the annual number 15, which I had as a kid. Let's see who else. Luke McDonald, Bob McLeod, Win Mortimer, Bob Hall, yada yada yada. To be quite honest, not one of the finer collections, but to me the annual alone, having the annual alone, which is this baby here, having this alone is worth the collection. I bought this as a kid. Not as a kid, as a teenager. Actually, I probably was. No, I was 20 years old. As a matter of fact, but I bought it, and I loved it. It was a great Miller story, and it was a Spidey story. And he only did a few rare Spidey. Well, there's some pinups there, a few rare Spidey appearances like that, but yeah, overall this is John Romita Jr. from his earlier period, which I'm not a huge fan of, but like I say, these I get them anyway. I like them. I like to read even series that I may not have read at the time, but have a quick look through, see what is good and what isn't good about it. But this is my favorite story, without doubt, out of that one. And let's see. Oh, from Mike Mignola and Warwick Johnson Cadwell comes Our Encounters with Evil. Encounters with Evil. Anyway, what is this about? It says, follow Professor Meinhardt and his assistant, Mr. Knox, as they continue their pursuit of ne'er-do-well creatures of the night. Well, another set of people chasing creatures. Seems to be a theme that Mignola enjoys, but he usually does a good job in it. So I'm going to give it a read anyway. And they're nice little books too. That's what I like about a lot of these ones like that Mignola and them do like this. They're only $23, $24 for a nice little hardcover book. And of course the style is, well, Mignola usually picks people who, if not mimic his style, at least echo his style. I mean, people are drawing on their own, but he really does stick to a certain palette of artists, you might say. But yeah, so yeah, gonna give this one a good hard read through. Now, last, if not least, yummy, 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 yummy. Oh yeah, this week was 1 year since good old Stanley passed away. Look, I have my little Stan here, and now don't go making comments. Oh, what about Jack? We all know about Jack and all that. It's just like poor old Stan. Gone a year. Now, let's end off this program with, I figure we'd end it with a bang anyway. Once again, from the fine, fine folks at the Library of American Comics comes another volume, this one, volume 16 of Little Orphan Annie. Volume 16, here today, gone tomorrow. Of course, once again, this now completes my complete set of Library of American Comics. I like that. Every time I buy one of their books, it's like another milestone again. Anyway, I've decided sometime in the next few months I'm gonna pick up where I left off, which is quite a few volumes. At least I think I only got about volume 2 or 3 into this before I got pulled away from it. But it's Little Orphan Annie is definitely worth reading. Here, I'll give you a close-up look. Kind of like there's a look to the Little Orphan Annie that I kind of like, this sort of dark, heavy, dark feeling to it all. It's in some ways reminds me of Gould in some ways, but it's still really does stand on its own. I've talked about many times how when I first started collecting these books, I picked up the first volume of Little Orphan Annie, figuring, okay, rather naively, hey, I'll at least get the first book of every one of these, just so I can have in my library a sample of all these different comic strips and stuff like that. But once I was living in New York at the time, and of course, like a lot of times, nighttime, I'd have nothing to do, so I'd read the books that I bought, and I'd read everything. And I read this from cover to cover, or at least the first volume, and it was just like, oh my God. I don't know whether, I thought of, I don't know if it was the Annie, the musical influence or whatever. I just didn't, never thought about Little Orphan Annie. I didn't realize what kind of strip it is, but it's a great adventure strip. And when I read even right from the first volume I read, it was just like, my God, this is really cool. And then I went down and I started to buy subsequent volumes as they came out. It's kind of good though. That's what I like about the Library of American Comics. They put out enough just to keep you going, keep you busy, keep you on your toes. And of course, like I say, Little Orphan Annie, like all the rest of their books, so worth getting, especially if you're a comic strip fanatic like myself. Comic strips. And I guess that's really it there, folks. Let's have a squeak on the old spinner rack there. And now this week I'll be getting together with Dennis, I'm pretty sure, to shoot the second episode of Thursday Comics, and gotta figure out the whole podcasting end of it and all that, and getting the audio parts up and going. But we haven't forgotten about. We're working on it. Anyway, that being said and everything like that, it's time for me to hit the road and call myself up a little boom tune, and I'll see you all next week in the Library of Graphic Literature. Hey, keep on reading, folks. Oh my God, I've been sucked into a boom tube. Woo! Crash bang! Okay, turned off.